Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. It was announced recently that Matt Reeves would be introducing Robin during the Batman 2, along with another new major villain from his Rogues Gallery, so we'll break it all down. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. There's a bunch of big stuff coming up. Most of you have probably seen some Robin talk in your feeds recently. I know everyone's been fan casting Timothée Chalamet as a version of Robin. He did talk about being Robin a while ago.
But hey,
now you're working with Batman.
Different. I was gonna say, Robert Pattinson, new Batman.
What do you think about Robert Pattinson as
It's
Batman?
gonna be awesome. I think it's gonna be awesome. I think it's gonna be great. Greg Fraser, an Australian DP, he did Dune. He's shooting the new Batman, so it's gonna be awesome. And I just know it's gonna be fresh, and I don't know in what direction, but I think it's gonna be a great new thing. But I grew up, you can ask my mom, who's here. People in the elevator growing up used to ask me, like, well, if they asked me, like, what's your name? If I was like 5 years old, what's your name? I used to say Robin. And and actually, every director steered away from putting Robin into. Well, actually, Zack Snyder had a flashback of Robin, but it was like 3 seconds, and I don't even know if it was Robin by name. But they've steered away from it because it's like I don't know, it's hard to do dramatically or something. I'm not averse to that, those universes.
After seeing him in Dune, he could actually do a pretty badass Robin, but the thing is, though, the report is that during the Batman 2, Matt Reeves is going to introduce a version of Dick Grayson who is only 13 years old. And even though Timothée Chalamet does look pretty young, there is no way he could pass for 13 years old, so pretty safe bet that he's not going to be the new Robin. But this would be the first time we've seen a live-action Robin, in the movies at least. They've had one on Titans for a while now, or a couple versions on Titans. And specifically a version in the movies who is alive, because Zack Snyder did introduce a version of Robin during Batman vs. Superman, but it was Dick Grayson, and he was killed before the events of the movie. That was meant to be this untold history that he had with Joker and Harley Quinn that they kind of alluded to during the first Suicide Squad movie, and then later during the Justice League Snyder Cut with their post-credit scene where he was taunting Batman in that post-apocalyptic future. So this new version of Robin that we're going to see will be the first living version that we've seen in the movies since Batman and Robin, with Chris O'Donnell's Robin and George Clooney's Batman, who we also just saw at the end of the Flash movie. Him messing up the timelines again at the end of that movie basically crossed over the Clooneyverse timeline with the main Snyderverse Justice League timeline, so technically Chris O'Donnell's Robin is now canon to those movies as well, even though James Gunn is rebooting everything with new actors in a totally different Earth. And he's got the Damian Wayne version of Robin debuting in the Batman Brave and the Bold movie in a couple more years with a totally different Batman. That'll be the crossover Justice League Batman. So the easiest way to think about this going forward is that Matt Reeves' Batman movies with Robert Pattinson are all meant to be Elseworlds, per James Gunn.
The DCU is connected in film, television, gaming, and animation. That the characters are consistent, played by the same actors, and it works within one story. And if something is outside of that, like Matt Reeves' Batman or Todd Phillips' Joker or Teen Titans Go, that it is clearly labeled as DC Elseworlds, outside of the mainstream DCU continuity.
They'll continue making Matt Reeves' Batman movies and his spin-off HBO shows like the Penguin episodes they're working on right now, and they'll just be Elseworlds. Right now, the Penguin episodes are supposed to take place during Batman Year 3. Charting the timeline, the events of the Batman 2 will take place about a year after that, so Batman Year 4, basically. He'll have had a couple Batsuit upgrades, Batmobile upgrades, generally upgraded tech all around, and if Matt Reeves is introducing a 13-year-old Dick Grayson, that means we'll probably see a version of his comic book origin just updated to fit with the other changes that Matt Reeves made in the first movie with the characters. Good example is the way he changed the Riddler's origin story and connected his backstory more with Bruce Wayne's backstory, like the orphanage started by Thomas and Martha Wayne, the Wayne Foundation that he worked for, how he was basically like an accountant working for the mob, then eventually decided to seek out his own justice against everyone. The version of Dick Grayson's origin story during Batman Forever is pretty close to his comic book origin story. He grew up as a circus performer with his mother and father. They had a group called the Flying Graysons and performed a trapeze act until one night they were performing in Gotham. His parents died in an accident. Bruce Wayne was in attendance and decided to make him his ward and take him in. The big difference between Dick Grayson and the other main versions of Robin, at least Jason Todd and Tim Drake, not necessarily Damian Wayne because he was his biological son, but Dick Grayson is the only Robin who Batman took in who wasn't his biological son that he never adopted. When they started doing this with the later versions of Robin in the comics, fans started asking this all the time, like, why didn't he adopt Dick Grayson like the later versions of Robin? They finally canonically answered this question in the comics in Tales of the Teen Titans number 50 in 1984. He asked Bruce if he ever thought about adopting him, and Bruce answers that he was too young at the time and too obsessed in the beginning of his career as Batman and never really thought about it at the time. Which sounds exactly like Robert Pattinson's current version of Batman. Like Matt Reeves said during the events of the first movie, he wanted him to feel like he was totally obsessed with being Batman to the detriment of all other aspects of his life. That's why Alfred had to force him to meet with the accountants at Wayne Enterprises because the company was going down the tubes because he was neglecting it in favor of spending all of his time as Batman each night and basically just skipping out on any Bruce Wayne aspects of his life. When he appeared in public during the mayor's funeral, that was meant to be a huge deal. Like, he hadn't shown his face in public in a long time, and everyone was super surprised to see him. Like, oh, you're finally showing your face now. And speaking of Robin, there were a lot of people who saw that funeral scene where the mayor's son and Bruce Wayne kind of lock eyes for a very long time. And people thought at the time, because they released this clip before the movie came out, just completely out of context, that it was meant to imply that the kid would become a version of Robin. But that's not the case. This was meant to be the mayor's son. Totally different person. They're going to cast somebody totally different as Dick Grayson, and it'll be more like comic book Robin. When Batman first took him in the comics, he didn't take the actual mantle of Robin, start wearing the suit, going on missions with him, till after they spent a bunch of time training together. So it's pretty likely that Matt Reeves will introduce the character, give him a version of his origin story where he becomes an orphan. At some point in the movie, Robert Pattinson's Batman will take him in, and the kid will discover that he's really Batman, and eventually Batman will agree to train him. Maybe they just tease him becoming Robin, getting the costume, or maybe they tease their training at the end of the first movie, and then by the events of the third movie, like the Batman 3, whatever that winds up being, then he debuts in the actual Robin costume. Let me know in the comments who your fan cast is for Robin if he's only going to be 13 years old in the movie. The other big news is that Matt Reeves is supposed to introduce Clayface during the movie, but he's not going to be the main villain. Most people think that he's going to be a version of the original Clayface, the Golden Age version of the character called Basil Karlo. Not the shape-shifting, metahuman Clayface, Matthew Hagen. That's who most people think of when they think of Clayface. The reason why everyone's expecting the original Clayface is just because he's more of a real-world, down-to-earth kind of Clayface, and that's the whole vibe of the Matt Reeves Batman universe. So far, we haven't seen any actual metahumans in the world of the Batman yet, so everything's been tech-based, at least so far. The Basil Karlo Clayface was based on real-life Boris Karloff and Basil Rathbone. Karlo was meant to be a B-list actor, driven insane when he hears that they're remaking his classic horror film without him. During that movie, he played the villain, who was called Clayface, and he puts that costume back on again, killing all the actors who are in the remake in the order that they got killed in the original movie. Then eventually Batman and Robin are able to stop him. Don't be surprised that they update his origin story just a little bit because they changed the Riddler's origin story, but they don't have to update Clayface's origin that much to make it fit within this current universe. They haven't revealed who the main villain is supposed to be. Hoping for Mr. Freeze, Matt Reeves talked about this a while ago, so a lot of people at the time thought that it implied that Mr. Freeze would be the main villain. Matt Reeves just said even the idea of something like Mr. Freeze, such a great story, right? So a lot of people were like, wait a minute, does that mean he's actually doing Mr. Freeze in the sequel?
The monster who took you from me will soon learn that revenge is a dish best served cold.
They also implied that they might be doing Court of Owls at some point, not necessarily in the sequel, but at some point during this Matt Reeves trilogy of Batman movies. There were a lot of Easter eggs and references to the Court of Owls during the first movie. That's why the actors were talking about it. Like, yes, there was a lot of Court of Owls in there.
Thomas and Martha were leaders of the Court of Owls in this timeline.
I like that one.
Oh, that's a...
I was definitely kind of thinking Court of Owls is probably going to be in the sequel. It definitely seems like...
Say it!
Well, I mean, I'm literally just guessing. I just keep saying it.
Good thing it's not in this film.
Or is it?
Or is it?
Let me know in the comments, though, who do you want to be the actual main villain of the Batman 2? I'll do more Batman videos when we get more details, and James Gunn won't announce his Batman in Batman Brave and the Bold until after the Batman 2 comes out with Robert Pattinson. They don't want to steal any of their thunder, so it'll be a while before we learn about that other version of Batman. As far as I know, Andy Muschietti is still directing Batman Brave and the Bold, even though everything's paused by the strikes right now. Even though there are a lot of complaints about the Flash movie just in general, one of the best aspects of that movie was the way he treated both versions of Batman and their action on screen. Like, he actually generally did a good job of Ben Affleck's Batman and a good job of Michael Keaton's Batman. So even if a lot of people were disappointed by the actual Flash of it all and the overarching story, the Batman stuff in it was actually pretty solid. Ben Affleck even said after he did his scenes that he actually wanted to come back a little bit, even though he had told them that he was done as Batman at the time.
And it's my best shit I've done. I finally figured out how to play the guy.
No, really?
I got it.
For real?
I was like, hold on. I quit. I know I quit. And I know I came back to but I got it now. And
it helps you see the character, and now you want another chance to play it.
And I was like, wait a minute, I got it. Am I still, wait, can I, guys?
Are we still rolling? Can we write another
story? Am I?
There's a bunch of big stuff coming up next week. My full Ahsoka Episode 4 video will post after they release it. If you have any special requests for bonus videos, just let me know in the comments below, too. Click here to learn about all the Superman deleted scenes, the whole alternate ending during the Flash movie, and click here for that Henry Cavill Warhammer trailer video. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.